What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Review for HIgurashi When They Cry Go. This is episode 16. With me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Okay. I have so many goddamn questions about what the hell just happened in this episode. It's just...
The first, what was it, 12 minutes or so of this episode were so hard to watch. I mean, we just got through the last episode where Rika was going through so much shit and getting killed in so many different loops. And then if we start off this episode, and I was kind of afraid. I was really hoping this episode would be a break from that, a break from just Rika's constant suffering. But I guess we couldn't have that because the beginning of this episode just kind of has much more of that. And honestly, it's a little bit worse just because it doesn't end as quickly as the other
it
ones.
was so much worse. Just what happens is supposedly we thought she was that. Sadako was, taking care of her because Rika had a fever or something like that. But that
I thought she was paralyzed for a second. I thought she was as she said she couldn't move, and then she was in pain. And
then we find out that she had her insides just completely ripped out.
Oh my
and it's
God.
how is she even still alive after all of that? Not to mention what happens shortly after this, and then apparently Sadako has Hinamizawa syndrome out of nowhere. And then she just goes off on Rika saying you've committed a sin for disobeying Lord Oyashiro, and then she just and then she brings out that gardening tool that's
it's the ceremonial
and she just starts goes off on on her intestines over and over again. It's not to mention that she uses an anesthetic to stop pain, but it didn't look like it stopped pain, whatever she was doing to her. I mean, yeah, it was just incredibly hard to watch. And then she, and Sadako also picked up Rika's top half of her body, started hugging her, but also at the same time just ripping off her intestines one by one over and over again. It's just that's...
Yeah. So Sadako says some... I mean, Spade thought that Sadako could be the one... This episode kind of lends to the theory that Sadako might be the looper because of some of the stuff she says. I'm not even sure if it's just she's saying this because she's crazy, or if because she could be the looper, because she basically tells Rika that she stuff she shouldn't have left Hinamizawa, which it doesn't really make sense if you're thinking about it within the context of whatever the current loop she's in, because I mean she never tries to leave Hinamizawa within the loops. I mean that would only have happened after she broke out of all the loops where she would have tried to leave,
which of course it shows us images of events that happened in the original series, and of course, the last scene, one of the last scenes that happened after Kai.
Yeah, this episode basically tries even more to connect itself with the original series, and because we see the apple, pretty much what happens at the end of Kai, and some of the other scenes from the original series, and what happens in the original loops or the original arcs. But apparently, the Sadako thinks that Rika, I guess, should be punished because she wanted to leave Hinamizawa, because at one point, I guess... no. Apparently, I guess it could be explained within the context of what happens in the loop, because there is a flashback scene to Rika telling Sadako that she wants to, I guess, eventually leave Hinamizawa and go to, and go to some school or something, the school that she's at when she's a teenager. So I guess that kind of makes sense. I guess that would kind of throw a wrench into Sadako being the looper, but which I less and less think that she is now, just because she has the syndrome, and she's I don't know, she just kind of went crazy.
I mean, I don't know. I could say that this could have been maybe some kind of nightmare that she had in between loops, but it just...
But yeah, so basically, that's the reason why Sadako, at least in her warped mind now, is punishing Rika, because she wanted to leave, and as we know, of course, she does leave. So, and I guess Rika starts to, I guess, feel bad or feel regret for having left the town behind because while this is happening, she has like a conversation with her future self, where she's like talking about like how much she like kind of, what was it, like how much she hated Yamazawa or something, or she like hated the town and she wanted to leave. But it's just like at the same time, it's like, can you blame her for wanting to do that, considering all the things she's been through for like hundreds of years? She's been,
I mean,
being killed like time and time again. Like who wouldn't want to leave? Like, I mean, and I mean, is what we're supposed to take away from this that she shouldn't have left and she should have just stayed there, in a place where she probably has like so much bad memories.
You expect us to believe that like you just want, like, whatever the powers that be is just keeping her over there, is like just wants to keep her there for whatever goddamn reason. I don't know. It's just like you just want to convince like Rika to just stay there against her own free will,
because it just kind of feels like it almost goes against the theme of the original series too, because the theme of the original series is like you need to believe in your friends and you need to, you know, trust in your friends and all this, and it just feels like it almost goes against that. Like, I don't know. Like, my fear is that this series is going to like kind of ruin the, like, you know, the theme of the original, at least if it's not done well. And I'm kind of afraid, like, considering what's going to happen later. I just kind of hope it all comes together eventually, because this episode kind of, I just don't like the direction it's going, to be honest. The series is going.
And soon after that, like, she apparently, you know, she does end up dead at the end of this sequence. And like,
yeah, she's taken out of her like where the dreamlike state where she's talking to her future self by like Sadako pulling out more of her organs, and then yeah, she eventually dies. But it was just so painful to watch. But yeah, she eventually dies, and then of course she wakes up again, and she's, you know, of course back in another loop. But this time they're all like playing by the lake.
Yeah, and like just pretending like as if nothing we saw just a few minutes ago didn't even happen. and then, like, you know, like like you said, they're going about like their lives as normal for now, and then as soon afterwards, like, Rika has a conversation with Sadako, like telling her, like pretty much telling her, like, you know, that she loves like everyone that she's met over the years, and, you know, and says like now she doesn't want to leave Hinamazawa, which it's just,
I mean, people were saying this on forums, and I have to agree. Like, it kind of feels wrong how she came to that conclusion, because she basically came to that conclusion through Sadako torturing her and getting her to admit that it was wrong that she left. It just didn't feel like she came to that conclusion on her own. No. Like, you know, Sadako had to, like, you know, she was just kind of like, you know, forced to come to that. I just don't really agree with that either, because it's like, what's wrong with wanting to leave a place that, you know, you just don't have good memories of, like, especially considering what she's been
through. And
like why is that? Because, you know, Sadako was like, that's a sin, you're sinful for doing that.
And now, like, soon after that scene, she's under the assumption that, like, things are going well and normal for whatever reason, like, you know, she doesn't see like Keiichi and Rena having
it's like Rika should know better, though. She knows that something bad is going to happen. It always happens after Watsunagashi. Why would she, you know, it's like, of course that always happens. Things always go normal first, and then after Watsunagashi, that's when bad things start to happen. It's like that's always been the case, I think, with Higurashi.
Yeah, and then, you know, and soon after the festival, like, she runs into both
I will say this, though. So that there is a difference in that they actually watch her dance this time, which, I mean, but it doesn't. I don't think it's going to make a difference, because the same thing happens in the first arc. It's like, yeah, they still watch her dance, but bad stuff still happens, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, but anyways.
Yeah, and then, like, you know, shortly after, well, like, near the end of the festival, she runs into Tomitake, like, you know, asking her where, you know, Takano is, and then shortly afterwards we see Takano again, and, you know, she's eager, you know, Takano's eager to talk to Rika, and that's where the episode cuts out. And now we're wondering what's going to happen next. Is, like,
I will say that's a bit different, Like, I don't remember Takano wanting to really talk to Rika in the other loops. So, not sure what changed.
Well,
like why she wants to now.
I mean, Takano did have like this, this interest in Rika because of her research over the Hinamizawa syndrome. But you have to wonder what's gonna happen next now. Just like, how is the cycle going to continue, or is it going to end at some point? And how Rika's inevitably going to, I don't know, just try to get through the situation now that she's been thrown into again. It's like,
and we're also at part 4 of this arc, so in the next episode, I guess it should be the end of it.
No,
I guess.
This is technically the 3rd part of the.
Well, yeah. I mean, by the next episode,
okay.
Be like the 4th part.
Yeah, but I remember the last arc was like 5 parts. So I mean, this could be. This could be at least maybe it might be a little bit longer. I don't know, because like I said, we're like, this was the 16th episode. We're at least maybe 7 or 8 more episodes left of the show, and I just don't know how, what else they're gonna end up telling or showing us how this is gonna end up. Like, is she ending?
It's anyone's guess at this point. Even people, like, a lot of people are just confused. They don't know where they're going with this. I mean, the only thing that I could assume is maybe Tomitake and Takano, or maybe it could be because people also suggested that Takano could be the looper, which is possible. Like, because she, like, they don't really show up at all after what's in Nagashi in these loops. I mean, obviously in the original they don't really either, but different things seem to happen in this one, at least to to both, I think, both to Tomitake and Takano. Obviously in the original, like, Takano disappears and Tomitake will usually kill himself, but this time it's like they both disappear, because in one of the loops they like stole a truck and they tried to drive away, and then they just, or in some other way, they just kind of disappear in general. So I kind of wonder if there's something going on with them.
It's anyone's guess at this point, because I don't know where this is gonna head down towards. If it's gonna end up in another disaster, or if it's like, is there gonna be something else that's gonna end up taking us out of this, and then like showing us something different, or maybe like what you speculated, talking about like what was it, the Umineko stuff that you've been speculating about.
Yeah, people also still think there could be the potential of a crossover, which I mean, I wouldn't rule out the possibility, but I find it a little bit unlikely. But I wouldn't say it wouldn't happen. I mean, I think it still could happen. It would be one of the few things that would explain how this, like, why this has just been so crazy, why it kind of didn't really make as much sense as the original did, I guess.
This episode was crazy, but it still doesn't answer, some of our questions as to why Rika's continually, constantly still looping back in Hinamizawa. I mean, honestly, that, the answer about like, Sadako telling her that, the reason why she's back there is because she left Hinamizawa, it just doesn't really satisfy me enough to really even believe that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like I said before too, it's like that's not going to change anything. Like, if you just come to that conclusion, it's like, okay, but that's not going to change what's going to happen.
No, and then because there's still various amount of factors like to consider, like Takano being one of them, and there's Satoshi that's still like Satoshi that's still missing, and then there's the the gas disaster that's gonna kill everyone in the village, like, eventually. So I mean, it's anyone's guess at this point. I mean, we'll have to find out what's gonna happen between the conversation between Rika and Takano, for the next episode. I
mean, it seems like we got I wouldn't say, I don't know, would you even say we got any answers in this episode? Like, it feels like we got like...
No, I don't think we got any answers to this, because I don't find them satisfactory enough for me to even believe something like this.
I just feel like this is... If this isn't a red herring, then I'm going to be really disappointed, because this just... It feels like this whole thing where it's like, oh, we need to not leave Hinamizawa. It's like, I mean, first of all, as we've stated before, it doesn't solve anything, and second of all, like, it felt like that was way too easy to come to that conclusion. There's no way it's that simple. I feel like I'm inclined to, I'm leaning more towards this being like a red herring, because especially from, you know, knowing how, you know, how Ryokishi 7 is, like, I feel like it's gotta be, because there's no way that this is just the conclusion. Like, it's just so stupid, and it just feels so out of character for Rika too, for her to just like pretty much more or less kind of accept her fate. I feel like she's giving in to whatever forces is trying to keep her there, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like this is how it's going to go. Like, she's going to realize that she was wrong with the conclusion she came to in this episode, and she still needs to fight, you know, to break out of the loop again. But you know, it's still anyone's guess as to you know, who is the real culprit and who's the looper, and what the point of all of this is in the first place. So, I mean, that's the real question. I kind of wonder, you know, I guess as much as this series is starting to really, to be honest, kind of frustrate me, I still kind of hold out hope we're going to get some answer, and I guess we'll just have to wait until next week, and hope that we're not going to continue to be strung along by this series, to, you know, with the possibility of us getting some kind of answer and then just not getting any, because like I'm really inclined to believe Takano must know something, so I'm interested to see what the conversation between the two of them is going to be in the next episode.
I mean, I think we'll probably still have to, you know, pull this one off for another 2 more months.
Here's another question though. Like, do you think that they would actually have Takano be a villain again? Like, do you think they would actually make her the villain of this series too?
I mean, technically...
Or do you think she would be, like, kind of like this unlikely ally this time, where she's, like, not a villain anymore, but she's actually, like, trying to help Rika in some way?
I have a really hard time really seeing this. Unless this has something to do with, like... Unless people have watched, like, the very end of Kai of what happened, because apparently, supposedly, whatever happened in that epilogue could have changed something.
Yeah, that's a good point, because this is a sequel, and... If we're going by that, then, like, you know, Takano shouldn't have, you know, have done the same things that she did in the original series, if, like, you know, we're going by the epilogue of Kai. So she should kind of be like a different person, I think.
And her actions wouldn't have led up to whatever happened to, you know, to Rika and, you know, the rest of Hinamizawa. But it just seems like, or it's possible that the show could be like a precursor to that epilogue scene.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. Yeah, this episode, I just don't know how to feel about this episode, to be honest. Like, on one hand, I'm just kind of, it's just starting to get really annoying how it's like, it was so frustrating because of how dumb, like, some of it was, but at the same time, I kind of want to believe that this is just, like I said, like a red herring, and Ryokishi's trying to fool us into thinking that's what the conclusion is, I guess, and that's not really what it is.
It seems too easy for it to be like, you know, like some kind of like near conclusion, if any, like that. I mean, we still got at least 8 more episodes left, like about a couple months more of episodes left to go through to really find out if it's like if it's really going to end off in whatever way they're trying to end off with. I don't.
Yeah, there's still time, so I think, you know, this, like I said, I think it's likely this is just like I said, a red herring, and it might, you know, this hopefully stuff will happen soon, though. That's just what I hope is going to happen, is that we'll actually, like I said, we actually start getting answers, because, you know, we still got a ways to go, but yeah, it's just like, I kind of hope that we get something. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about this one, and I don't know if you've got anything else
No,
to say about
I
it.
mean, it was an incredibly gruesome episode for one thing.
Yeah.
But it's just
I'm surprised it actually was more gruesome than the last episode. Like, I didn't think that was possible.
I mean, but I'm still not satisfied as to what really transpired, in the second half, because it just doesn't feel like, it's a good way for them to like suddenly just, make just tell us like, that her staying in Hinamizawa might really solve things.
Yeah, and we all know it's not going to.
No, it's not.
I mean, yeah. But, yeah, I guess that all being said, until next Thursday, we will see you all next time.